This is the game of Crokinole. It's a disc flicking game. I often compare it to a combination between shuffleboard and cornhole. I like it because it's really easy to play, it's simple to learn, and it's pretty quick. I can get an entire game in that's multiple rounds in less than 10 minutes. This is going to be a full breakdown of how to play, everything that you need to know. If you would prefer to just watch a game played and hear us narrate what's happening, you could learn that way. I've got a different video for that. But just getting right into it, we're diving in. On your turn, you're going to take one of your discs and you're going to start it on your shooting line. That's this outside line here, somewhere touching that line within your quadrant. So it could be anywhere along here, even past that quadrant line again, so long as it's touching that outside line. And then you flick your disc, just like so. Exactly like so. Okay. The technique I usually show people is that I'm resting my wrist on this outside rail. I am lining my finger up to where it's kind of straight up and down. I'm kind of getting low to see where I want to shoot, and then I just point where I want it to go. Exactly like that. Okay. Some people I see try to load their finger up really hard to get that really hard flick. You don't have to do that. This is a really smooth board. It doesn't take a lot of effort to get where you want it to go. Some people I see try to slide it, meaning put their finger on top of the disc and push it that way. We're not doing that. This is a strike or a push behind the disc, just like that. And it doesn't take a lot of time to really get that effort and that technique down. Now, where you're trying to shoot it to, there's two different states of play. Either your opponent has a disc somewhere on the board or they don't. Let's say that this is the first shot of the game. No discs on the board. My shot, what I'm trying to do, a valid shot, is one where this disc is at least touching this 15-point line. This is the 15-point line, the 10-point line, and the 5-point line. Usually boards have those numbers printed on them somewhere. Okay, this now is a valid shot. Even better if you get it all the way to the middle. If it ends up anywhere inside that circle, that's a valid shot. If it's touching that line, still valid. If it's not touching that 15-point circle at all, that's an invalid shot. All discs involved in an invalid shot are put to the ditch. That's going to be 0 points at the end of the round. Don't do that. You can crumb a shot, which means I can strike one of my discs. This wouldn't be the first shot of the game, but let's say, again, opponent doesn't have discs on. I have at least one of my discs on. I'm going to try to hit that disc into the middle. Perfect. That's a valid shot. One of the discs involved is at least touching that 15-point circle. Notice how my shooting disc isn't in there. That's okay. This is still valid. Again, let's say I tried to do that and I completely whiffed. Okay, none of the discs involved are touching that 15-point circle. That means all discs involved in that shot are invalid. That means both of these discs get put to the ditch and are 0 points at the end of the round. Don't do that. That's a big point swing. So that's state one. Let's say now your opponent has a disc somewhere on the board. Let's say this is the second shot of the game. Your opponent shot, it's now in the middle. For me now, what I'm trying to do, a valid shot, is one where I hit one of my opponent's discs. Ideally, I'm trying to hit it off the board, keep my discs towards the middle, scoring me more points, and robbing my opponent of their points. So there you go. That's a valid shot. I struck one of their discs. They could have multiple discs on the board. I get to choose which one I'm shooting at, and I can also crumb a shot. So let's again say this is set up this way. I can hit this disc, which will then hit that disc. There you go. That's a valid shot. If, again, what I was describing before happens, where I try it and I completely miss, there you go. All discs involved in that invalid shot are again ditched. So both of those would go back out to the ditch. But again, anywhere on the board, even if this is the only one and it's outside that 15-point line, I'm just trying to shoot their disc and hit their disc, even if I ideally trying to get it all the way off the board. You're going to keep playing, and you've seen me sink a couple of these, so any disc that goes into the center here is 20 points. If this is the 15-point line, this is the 20-point line. So I call that a crokinole. I take that out, and I'm going to reserve it in a special place. Usually it comes with some tubes, acrylic tubes that are either on the rail or outside. Put that in there. That'll be a reserved 20 points for the end of the round. Any discs that come to rest on this outside line, this is an invalid shot now. So this disc is considered out. I would push that to the ditch. And you're going to keep playing. At the end of the round, you're going to count up the number of points per disc. That disc has to be completely within the circle to score that number of points. So if it's on the line, it's considered the lower value. So for example, this state for me, I have 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, 15 points, and then my 20 points. And then you're going to offset your opponent's points. So my opponent here has 2 10 points. Again, if it was on the line, that would be considered a 5-point disc. The winner of the round is the one that has the most points, and they're going to earn the number of points that is the difference between the two players. Traditionally, this game is played 1v1. You and your opponent sit across from each other, and you play round after round until somebody hits 100 points. It can be kind of a long experience. A round usually consists of either 8 or 12 discs. I prefer 8, it's a little bit quicker of an experience. You can play 3 players, so you, your opponent, and then another opponent sits on one of these others. You'll need a different colored disc. I'm not a huge fan of that. You can play teams, which is a great experience. You and your team member sit across from each other, and then your opponents sit perpendicular. In that case, each of you has 6 discs, and then you each take turns until everybody has shot all of their discs. Same thing as before. I prefer the structure of best 2 out of 3 rounds, meaning it doesn't matter how many points you win by. If you win the round, you win the round. I still keep track of points in order to break ties if we have them, but I'm just playing at most 3 rounds, 8 discs each, just like so. And that's kind of all you really need to know for Crokinole. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments below. Otherwise, enjoy your playing. I do have a slight post-production addition that is worth mentioning. While you're playing, you're not allowed to move the board to make your shot any easier. Similarly, you can't move your chair or even get out of your chair. While you can lean either way, you must keep connected to your chair at all times. This is affectionately called the one cheek rule. Intentionally, it makes those shots on the extreme edges of that shooting line a little bit more difficult. And that's all you need to know. Have fun playing Crokinole.